Boy, oh boy, oh boy. 2 times. Going live twice in one day. That is very, very exciting. Mostly because I never do this. Because let's just say it's because I don't have time. Not because I'm lazy and don't understand how OBS works, which I have no idea how OBS works. I've tried it multiple times, which is why just talking into a webcam is way easier because, yeah, Streamlabs and that kind of stuff is super confusing when you're computer illiterate like I am. But it's going to be fun. I'm going to stave off some of this this quarantine blues over this. I'm not going to say that I'm going crazy because I've really only been staying at home for like 4 days. Yeah, it's only really been like 4 or 5 days that I've been like stuck in the house. But I could be handling it better, I think. Yeah, but either way, this is kind of a continuation of my previous live stream. Earlier today, I was talking about the Trollskull Club, which is our weekly Dungeons & Dragons game that we play, me and my friends. We don't stream it or anything. We've talked about streaming it here and there, but who in the world needs another Dungeons & Dragons podcast, you know? I don't think anyone really does. There's literally a podcast called Not Another D&D Podcast, which I've also been listening to a lot because of, you know, the current situation. But either way, I'll do like a quick little, I'll try to keep it quick little recap of kind of the last video of where we are so I can kind of pick up where we last left off. So the Trollskull Club, before they reached the infamy to get that name, were just 4 adventurers hanging out at the yawning portal. Hello, Lauren. You know, Quick is very exciting. Quick being one of the PCs, our tiefling sorcerer at this point, at least. She hasn't multi-classed yet, but she will soon. Our 4 adventurers: Quick, the tiefling sorcerer; Harvey, the Aarakocra rogue; Bryn, the elven cleric; and Sundry, the elven paladin. They all were hanging out the yawning portal. They got into a little bit of a scuffle with some rival gangs that were making a bit of a tiff, if you will, at the yawning portal. That caught their kind of how they dealt with that situation, caught them into the crosshairs of one Volothamp Gedarm, a local artiste, I mean, some would say a famous author. He would definitely say that. I'm not sure if others would maybe classify him as so much, but he kind of caught their eye and hired them to go off on a journey to rescue one Floon Bragmar, the very fun, exciting NPC that everyone loves. They go off, go to they meet old Zablob, who's like this gnomish, to RIP. That's spoilers, RIP for Floon Bragmar, but Floon does not make it. Well, he makes it for a long time, actually, in the campaign. Actually, I will say. He only just recently kind of hit the bed. I don't know. I feel like that is not the proper nomenclature for that that phrasing. But yeah, they go off. They go to old Zoblob's shop, which is this weird like curio and oddities shop full of like purple garments and iconography everywhere. Which is funny in hindsight because the eye is very much the sign of the Xanathar Guild within the city. I don't think the players picked up on that when they first went to meet Zablob, that he had these eyes everywhere, and the people that they had met in the bar also had eye tattoos and things like that. If I remember correctly, they did not really pick up on that. They meet Zablob, they go and they find out that Rainier was with another man that night, one Rainier Neverember. Ironically enough, I don't know if it was the vibes that I was putting out or how I described their relationships, but Volothamp, Floon, and Rainier very much quickly became a polyamorous relationship. And I don't know if you hear that, but there's an ice cream truck outside. Why is there an ice cream truck outside? I don't know. I guess ice cream trucks are essential businesses currently. I mean, I guess I get it, because like if all the kids are going to be at home from school, then I mean, might as well get your ice cream truck out. Either way, Gosh, they find out that Floon and Rainier had been kidnapped by some Zentarum agents, and they were being held in a warehouse at Candlekeep Lane. I believe it was called, yeah. They go there, find out that the Zentarum agents have been murdered by Kenku, who are working for the Xanathar Guild. So after some hijinks and a quick battle erupts, they find Rainier Neverember, who turns out was the actual target of this kidnapping. They're actually looking for Neverember and not Floon Bragmar, because it turns out they look eerily similar, which is weird in context, I guess, when you think that they're in like a romantic relationship and Rainier's literally with somebody who looks almost, I mean, they're both with people who almost look exactly the same, but let's just say that's a narcissistic tendency that they both share. After that, they go down into the sewers, utilizing Thieves' Cant that we learned recently Harvey did not know at the time. So the funny retcon is that Harvey, I guess, just guessed his way around. Because when we first played, Harvey used his Thieves' Cant to get to the Xanathar hideout. And then only recently did Cameron decide to let us know that Harvey actually doesn't know how to read Thieves' Cant. I think it was just one of those things that they always say that wait until session 2 or 3 to really lock down your character. Because things will change in the beginning when you're playing the character of how you want to play them. Then nobody's character is actually really locked down, I'd say, to like the 3rd or 4th session. Because there are times when I've played characters and I'm just like, I was really accentuating this one part of their personality, but I don't really want to go that direction. Let me kind of change it up. And so a lot of pivots happen in the early parts of campaigns, I think. Either way, they do that, rescue Floon Bragmar from the clutches of a mind flayer and a orcish kind of an acolyte, a wizard. And they rescue Floon Bragmar, bring him back to Volothamp, who gives them a haunted tavern. Because that's the type of reward that you get for adventuring in Waterdeep. You just get a deed to a property. Again, we were very closely following the as written adventure in Waterdeep Dragon Heist at this point. So some things I might have changed and done differently if I was running it now than when I first started running it, because this was my first real written adventure that I was running. But they get that property. They find out it's haunted by the ghost named Lif, or a specter named Lif, who was the previous owner of this establishment. And with the assistance of Rainier Neverember, who shows back up. And this is another situation where I think I, as a DM at the time, was just pressing fast forward on situations and not really letting them breathe. Is that Rainier just kind of shows up and says, hey, I'll pay you 1,000 gold to fix up the tavern as long as you let me work there. Which is, in hindsight, maybe like a weird ask, but I explained it in my head, at least, is that this is a guy who's kind of been shit on because of his family's name and because of what his dad did. His dad was the person who embezzled the 5,000 gold pieces from the city of Waterdeep in the beginning. That started this whole situation. So really, he's just looking to get away from that and to start his own life. So I think I explained it enough. And honestly, if I hadn't done that, though, I don't know what the state of the campaign currently would be. Not that they wouldn't have gotten the tavern open and all that stuff. That 100% would have happened, just maybe taken longer. But it's more so that Rainier has become such an integral NPC to this party. They've all developed different relationships with him. That I think that even though I might not 100% agree with the decision I made, I think that in the long run, it really helped the characters and their stories and their relationships to Rainier. I think it really added a lot of things for me to mess with as a dungeon master. So after that, they kind of, we did a 1-week time skip. They introduced and met a lot of the NPCs within the Trollskull Alley. Rachel, the page turner, who runs this magic shop. Fala Lafalier, a elven druid who kind of works as like a potion brewer and herbalist, and Vincent Trench, another very important NPC who would come up of this. I love Vincent Trench. Vincent Trench is very much that guy who saw way too many noir films and thinks himself of. Last video, I couldn't think of the name, but like a Humphrey Bogart, I guess, maybe is the person I'm going for. He's very much like looks out the window, cigar smoke in his hand. My whole life changed. That dame walked in. Very much one of those narrating everything that he does. He was a very fun NPC to just kind of play along with. But after that, tavern gets open and kind of running, and then the fireball incident happens. And that's about where we left off with my last 30-minute video about this campaign. Did not get very far into the campaign. It turns out that a lot of shit happens. I apologize for the naughty language. Sometimes I try to work on it, and then sometimes I just don't because I'm under quarantine, so my brain's not working fully. I'm just going to take a little... So we pick back up with the kind of the explosion in Trollskull Alley. After some kind of investigation and research, they find out that this automaton, a Nimblewright, was the perpetrator of this explosion, and that there was an individual who, I think at this point they found out that Rainier knew this individual, and this person, this dwarf, worked for his father, and it was probably delivering something to him from his father, which is weird because him and his dad don't have a lot of contact. But after that, they have a little bit of a run-in with the Waterdeep guards. Not just a couple of questions because they use a speak with dead spell and find out that the dwarf was going to the tavern. So they have a few kind of follow-up questions, but they're not too suspicious of the party. They're just kind of like, all right, don't get yourselves into trouble. You know, this is Waterdeep. You know, shit happens, but try to keep it on the level. After that, the party does some more investigation on their own. And this is the point where the party really has the first choice that is going to make a legitimate consequence in the story that we're telling. But they don't know it yet, or they didn't know it at that time. They were given a couple of different leads to follow, and they decided to go and meet up with Zorda Zord, who was the owner of the Sea Maidens Fair, a kind of traveling carnival that had arrived to Waterdeep. And because they found out that Zorda Zord sells and kind of is in the business of a lot of these automatons. He sells a lot of them to people, and he'll probably have like a record of possibly this one being sold. So they go over to him and they have a discussion about like, hey, you know, this event happened. We believe it's one of your Nimblewrights. Could you help us out? And at that time, it's fun for me as the Dungeon Master because you have a party of characters who all don't 100% believe the NPC they're talking to. They all have their reservations. And obviously, I know more information than they do. But they aren't able to suss out exactly the information. And so they have their own ideas about what's going on. But at the end, they do just kind of end up trusting this individual. With as much as you can say trusting, they do end up kind of working with this individual. This individual actually being not Zorda Zord, but Jarlaxle, the Pirate King of Luskan, which is another nation, another country along the Sword Coast, kind of in the Forgotten Realms. So they kind of ally with Zorda Zord at this time, and they get to see, he has this device that allows him to look into the memory banks of all of his Nimblewrights, and so they see the Nimblewright using a necklace of fireballs to attack the dwarf, stealing a stone eyeball from him and taking it back to a recent noble family. I'm going to take another sip. Wow, it's a lot of information, but this is fun, so I'm okay with it. He stole this stone eye and he took it back to a noble family known as the Grauhuns. This decision really shaped the way that the story was going to go, because if they had not gone to Zorda Zord, Jarlaxle and the Brigand Art would not have been involved with the dragon heist. The only reason that Jarlaxle even really knew that anything was happening, or that this hunt for this 500,000 gold pieces was going on, was because the party went to him and showed him, and he looked through this Nimblewright's eyes and he saw, he saw the stone eye, and that's the first thing that let him be introduced into the great game, or the dragon heist as it is. So if they'd never gone to Jarlaxle, to Zorda Zord to follow that lead, I don't think Jarlaxle would have really gotten involved with the dragon heist. Maybe later on, but not in the aspects that he does get involved later on. So anyway, the party finds out that yes, it was the Growlhounds that used this Nimblewright to steal the eye from the dwarf. And this is where they make, again, one of the first real choices, I think, so far in the campaign that has consequences. Because they decide that they're going to sleep on the information and visit the Growlhounds the next morning, which does not go for well for them. They could have technically found themselves in the middle of kind of a midnight raid on the Growlhound Mansion. If they had gone that night to go to the Growlhound Mansion to get information or speak with anybody, they would have possibly been in the position to get one of these stone eyes, one of the MacGuffins, way earlier than they did. But that's also information that they didn't know. They didn't know there was going to be they didn't know that these different groups were all going to converge on the Growlhound Manor that night to go after this stone eye. But again, that's also, it's, as a dungeon master, you don't want to punish your players for information that they did not know, but you also want them to know that the world is moving and there are consequences, I guess. It's how I say, it's like, I don't want them to be like, oh, well, if we don't immediately act on every piece of information we get, John's just going to take it away from us. It's more so there are other things in play, and so sometimes you might not have the time to sit on information. Sometimes you do, and it's all about just kind of knowing that it's not going to stop just because you're done following that thread. I don't know. That could have been a way too long-winded explanation for it, but hey, who knows? So either way, yeah. So that night, Jarlaxle and his men, who have been alerted to the fact that this stone eye is at the Growlhound Manor, attack the manor. The Zentarum agents attack the manor, and the Xanathar Guild. All three, unbeknownst to each other, they all converge on the manor at the same night. So it kind of quickly turns into this crazy battle between these three factions trying to get inside this manor and get this stone eye before anybody else can. Which is also kind of part of the Alexandrian remix, this kind of remix of Dragon Heist that I was playing with, of making sure that all the different factions were involved in the story, so that it's not just like, oh, you have one bad guy, and no, it's like the city is moving and there are different groups all after the same item, which I thought would be fun and different, and not super straightforward, but also because one of my players had played Dragon Heist before, so I wanted to make sure that the experience is very different for him, so he wasn't going into it knowing everything that was going to happen. I know Cameron would have been fine and would have still played his character, but I also wanted to make Cameron the player surprised. I think I did. So after that, they do some investigating, find out that there was an attack, and yeah, Lauren, 100%. There was a lot of choices early on in the campaign that kind of steered where things were going, and also the my personal, like, I was using the Alexandrian remix, but also kind of my own personal change to it, because the Alexandrian, it's a lot of words, a lot of letters, remix, I also didn't fully vibe with, so I just kind of took the best of both and kind of made what I wanted, which I think turned out pretty well. I don't know. I'm gonna get another sweet tea. Sweet tea. There's some sugar in there. It's very good, very delicious. I'm glad that I can actually drink it right. So I was pretty sick for the last couple of days, but finally, I feel like I'm like back to myself, and like my brain is working again. We'll see how long after this if my brain is still working. But either way, they kind of continue following that thread and find out that the eye is missing, is gone. And that kind of leads us to a little bit of some kind of investigation of trying to figure out what is going on and where things are. We have a little bit of downtime, I believe, that happens again. Again, this is like a year ago, so I might not have exactly all the details right, but I believe we went into some more downtime where the players kind of followed off on a little bit of other trails. Harvey did some investigation with Vincent Trench, and in that situation, he was helping Vincent Trench with a client that he had by the name of Elena Roshnar. Elena Roshnar was trying to find out the location of Osvaldo Castellanter. Osvaldo Castellanter had disappeared, and she was trying to figure out where he had gone. So Vincent Trench invites Harvey to go to the Castellanter Manor at night, do a little bit of sneaking, do a little bit of roguing around, and figure something out. This is fun, because me and Cameron played this, and I had him make some rolls, and he did not roll very well in stealth. He was able to nab a couple of items from the Castellanter Manor, but he gets caught by the Lord and Lady Castellanter, who use, I believe, I want to say it was a Dominate Person spell, I believe, to essentially... Oof. No, wait, I think sorry. I think I have this wrong. I think I have the timeline wrong. Because at that point, the players did get one of the eyes. They did have one of the stone eyes. Because Harvey actually steals the eye from them. That's the big thing that happens, is that Harvey, under the control of the Castellanters, steals the stone eye that the party had just kind of collected and brings it to the Castellanter Manor and brings it to them. I'm trying to remember how they got the first eye. Oh, I'm trying to think, because they visited the Grauhuns. That didn't turn out. And then the Xanathar Guild had an eye. The Trollskull had it. Oh, I believe that's what happened. Okay, now I'm back on track. So, right, I wish Cameron was here with his notes. So if I remember correctly what happened, Trollskull and his group, they got the eye from the Grauhuns. They then used that to bargain with the Trollskull Club, with our party of adventurers, who said, hey, the only reason I have this eye is because you let me in on this. So even though you did it unknowingly, I appreciate that. Here, you can have the eye. I want to work together. Because at the end, Trollskull didn't care so much about the gold. Trollskull is really trying to use the finding of the gold as a, how do you say, a bit of leverage. That was really bad accent work. So don't hire me for any of your VO projects. But he uses it as leverage. He wants to use finding the gold as leverage to get Luskin into the Lord's Alliance, which is kind of this alliance and grouping of different nations and cities within the Sword Coast. Now we're back on track. So Trollskull gives the party an eye and says, hey, here you go. Find the other two. We'll work together. They hide it at the manor, and then that night, Harvey gets dominated and steals it. So literally, like the day they get it, Harvey gets dominate personed, and he steals it from them. And so the party wakes up the next day with, holy, where'd the eye go? Holy crap, where is it? Because it turns out the Castellanters, their one instruction to Harvey was, hey, you're going to, if you find the eye, or the Eye of Galore, on one of the Eyes of Galore, you'll bring it to us. It was a very kind of, it was really a long shot on their end, because they were also kind of involved in trying to look for this, but they didn't really know where to start. And so when someone broke into their house, they only assumed that he was breaking in because he was a part of this dragon heist. And so they're like, you know what, we'll just waste his spell slot. If we get something out of it, cool. If we don't, we don't. And they just got lucky. In fact, that Harvey's party had literally just received an eye, which is not even like on my part, because I believe me and Cameron had played that before. We played that before, or like right after we'd found they had gotten the eye from Trollskull. So it was serendipitous, to say the least. But yeah, so Harvey steals the eye, brings it to the Castellanters. Quick and Bryn have to fight. They don't really fight Harvey. They're more so trying to subdue him. While I'm just forcing Cameron to use all of his inventory and all of his abilities to just do as much damage to them as possible, because I was an evil dungeon master. They're able to get Harvey out of this phase, and they realize that, okay, the Castellanter family is involved in this somehow, and we need to have a discussion with them. And this really leads to some of my favorite stuff in the beginning of the campaign, and also I think some of the most lasting consequences for stuff that's happened, because they meet with the Castellanters and they just hear the saddest story about a family broken, about children that have their souls signed away to be taken to the 9 hells on Founders Day. Twin children. Just poor children. And the Castellanters are just so hurt. They're bleeding hearts. They're just parents who care so much. Yeah, the party, I'm not going to speak for the party. I think they bought some of it, but I think they were wary of the Castellanters in the beginning, especially since Harvey had been put under a spell, in his first meeting with them. So they weren't very trustworthy with them. But some high insight checks worked in the Castellanters' favor. Well, one of my players, Lawrence, bought it 100%. Well, you did, because Quick rolled a 19 or a 20 on an insight check. And at that point in time, everything that Amalia Castellanter had said was not a lie. She did care very much. She did not want to see her children taken to the 9 hells. She did care very much, and did have noble's a wary term. I don't know if they were noble intentions, but was trying to get themselves out of a spot. Maybe they didn't let go that they had put themselves in that position, but that's a conversation for another time. But yeah, that was fun also, because this was, the more and more they got involved with this web of intrigue, the more and more I got to play NPCs who had varying motives and who were keeping information from the party and had to be very specific with the things and how they said it, so I could get around high rolls like that. So I wasn't lying to the party, but if you roll an insight check and someone truly believes what they're saying, they're not lying. They truly believe what they're saying. They just didn't tell you a certain part of it. So that was fun of me kind of growing as a dungeon master, to learn how to fool my players. So essentially the Trollskull Club, before they gained that intrepid name, are Team Castellanter. Really, for all intents and purposes, they are Team Castellanter. They're like, we're going to find these eyes, we're going to get the money, and we're going to make sure that the Castellanter children are saved. And so they do that. I believe after that, there's a little bit of a decoy. Not a decoy, but a little bit of like some side quests that happen. Because one individual who continuously ruins everything decides to come back into the picture. And that is one Floon Bragmar. Because Floon Bragmar, he's a bit of a gambler. He's he likes to live a fast and loose life. He likes a little bit of excitement, and racks up some debt with a local crime boss by the name of Maceris, a tabaxi. The reason the party finds out about this is because Rainier Neverember decides to do something stupid. Rainier finds out about Floon's debts and tries to take out this guy. Rainier is, a high-level rogue, and he's also a member of the secret organization, the Harpers, so he has skills. Maceris is pretty dope, though. Maceris is pretty cool. And Maceris caught him before he could plunge a dagger in him and just beat the tar out of him. Honestly, it's not Maceris' fault, though. I'm Team Maceris. Some guy tries to come in there and kill you. You got to do what you got to do. It's just business. So Rainier gets sent packing back to the Trollskull Tavern. The party is like, Rainier, oh my gosh, what happened? We have such a deep bond with you. We care about you so much now. And he's like, I'm sorry, guys. I did something stupid. Floon did something stupid. And so the party decides to go and meet with Maceris and have a conversation. Maceris is a tabaxi, and he is the leader of this kind of underground crime organization. They're not as large as the Xanathar Guild. They're very small, very close-knit, though. They're called the Monster Children. They are, in D&D terms, monstrous races. There's a tabaxi, Maceris, a goblin by the name of Jeff, Jepff, or as Red, as she gets nicknamed later on, but we'll talk about Red later. A bullywug by the name of Bopkin, and a changeling by the name of Asir. And they are, along with some bandits, the Monster Children. It's what they call themselves. They were people who were born and raised in the Dockward and Waterdeep, who had to fight for them, who had to fight for everything they have, and who had to fend for themselves. And so they have a very deep bond because of that. Viserys is a chill cat because he's a tabaxi. He's a chill cat. Yeah, he's pretty cool dude. He's like, yo, I get it. You know, Floon, your friend Floon over here has a lot of debt. How about this? How about we make an arrangement? You help me out with a delivery I have, and I'll waive his debts clean. So the party is like, you know what? Fine, we'll do this. We will do this for you. In the beginning, I think the party's relationship with Viserys is a little contentious, obviously because of the situation in which they met him. You know, him and his men beat the crap out of Rhaenyra, and then, you know, they also had beaten the crap out of Floon. And so they didn't fully trust the Monster Children, but I loved the Monster Children. I guess that's my DM bias coming in with some NPCs I created. I adore them and Viserys and everything to do with them. So I was hoping to give them a reason to want to interact with them more and want to kind of build a relationship with them. So the Trollskull Club goes on a little mission. They go on kind of an envoy. Jeff and Hopkin are delivering a wagon of supplies deep into the forest. So the party is really there just as extra muscle. They go into the woods. They have some nice role playing, some nice travel. They fight some harpies, which go pretty well, actually. Again, as I said in the last video, the one through line of this entire campaign, a lesson I've had to learn very hard. Trollskull Club, they throw hands. Man, Trollskull Club, they don't play. They're really good at combat. They are savage. They are just really good at using their abilities and kind of maximizing what they're good at. And also especially with the multi-classing that comes in. And I believe at this point in time, it might have been later, the multi-classing. No, yeah, because Brynn doesn't multi-class until after Dragon Heist. I can't remember if Quick multi-classed already. She might have. She does multi-class to Cleric, but I don't remember exactly when it happens. It might have been after Dragon Heist too, actually. Anyway, they're still really good at maximizing what they do. And okay, so Quick had not multi-classed yet. Thank you. See, I'm glad, Lauren. I'm glad you're here, so you can keep me honest as I tell you these things. Anyway, so they fight two harpies, which they just they did have a little bit of trouble, I think, just because Quick had gotten charmed by one of the harpy songs, but it goes over pretty quickly. After that instant, they kind of just mop the floor with them. And they lead to we have two brain cells between us. Yes, we do. It did lead to one of my favorite things in the early part of the game that I kind of added was that, so Bopkin and them, they go to this giant tree where there's this like underground tunnel slide that leads to kind of an underground cavern that they go down. And it seems that the Monster Children were taking supplies to refugees. These are refugees from the Underdark. These were myconids who are like conscious spore creatures who all kind of have a collective consciousness, and they are part of like what's called a sovereign, I believe is what it's called, is that they're a family of spore creatures. And so this is where the DM showing the characters like, hey, the Monster Children are all that bad. Sure, they beat up your friends, but they have good intentions. They take kind of supplies to them, and they hang out for a little bit and just see kind of the way of life of these myconids, these spore creatures. And it's really interesting. It was really fun because there's some nice role play moments and also some nice kind of not getting back on path, but finding out what the characters want, I guess, because there's this very much like the myconids have this spore that allows them to all join in nice roleplay in a dream state, a shared dream state. And in that, I get to tug at Lauren's heartstrings some more with her missing family, and and Harvey gets to express some feelings. He gets to his feelings begin to grow for this little goblin girl, which that is, oh, sorry, it warms my heart. Harvey and Red, what that turns into. I mean, it's nothing yet, but it's been growing, and so it's just funny remembering the beginnings of what was really just like a one-off kind of side thing that kind of turned into some really important NPCs. But yeah, that they do this collective dream state thing, and then that night, these human clerics start burning the cavern that they're in, start attacking, and they are extremists. They are people who they don't believe in these creatures. They should be burned. They're evil things. They're from the Underdark. They should be they should perish and burn in holy fire. Those types of people, wonderful people. And the party quickly dispatches of them. Like literally, okay. See, Quick. Are you sure that Quick did it multi-class? Because I could have swore she twinned a guiding bolt this time. Maybe she twinned like a firebolt or a scorching ray or something. But I thought she twinned a guiding bolt to kill like 2 of the clerics. Yeah. So yeah, I think she was because I remember that because it was brutal. Because first of all, sorcerers and sorcery points are amazing. Sorcery points are just a very fun mechanic that can just create some interesting things. I don't know if the sorcerer spell list really, maximizes the amount that you can do with the sorcery points, but a cleric spell list, oh boy, Twinned Guiding Bolt is a monster. Twinned Guiding Bolt is like just you are pissed off and you just want to just wreck some fool's day. You twin guiding bolts and took out like a theme that has still kind of continued that we've really been playing with, and not on purpose, I don't think, of the morality of adventuring, and kind of this idea of what is the right thing to do. Is murdering people because they attack us, is that the right thing to do? That's what an adventurer does, but is that the right thing to do? And it's very much kind of become this idea of what is in a world that has literal realms of law and chaos and order, what does being a good person actually mean? And it's a lot of shades of gray that I think have been very interesting that we've all been kind of playing with, especially when we get to later on where when we get into more of Quick's tiefling heritage compared to Bryn's elven heritage, and just exploring those areas more of like, all right, well, you're you follow a good deity. Well, technically these are evil creatures, but they're also lawful. So how can it's an interesting dichotomy that I'm surprised that we really was something that we latched onto, I think, even in the early parts of the game. Anyway, they kill these clerics. They just destroy them. And they all kind of travel back to the city of Waterdeep after that. After a night's rest and all that stuff, they go back to Waterdeep, meet up with the monster children, and kind of I think there's a newfound appreciation for what the monster children do, as the monster children are very much they protect those who can't protect themselves, is their kind of motto. They protect people who are seen as outcasted from regular society, who are seen as monstrous. They protect monsters, and so eloquent way of saying it. After that, gosh, I believe this is where we get into go after the Xanathar Guild, where they fully decide to go after the Xanathar Guild. Yeah, because there's a little bit here, a little bit multiple planes of action are happening at this kind of time frame, because you have them trying to go up to the Xanathar Guild because they believe the Xanathar Guild have the last eye that they're looking for. But they're also investigating the Castellanters. There's a great roleplay moment that really was interesting from my perspective, because the party decided, hey, we want to cast a zone of truth on Amalia Castellanter and see if she's telling us the truth. And so me, as a dungeon master, of trying to, how would she handle this situation, you know? And it was really hard. It was hard. It was a little hard trying to navigate around that, of just trying to think, I don't want to tip my hand too early, but I also need to make sure that she doesn't tip her hand too early. So eventually she decides, you know what, I'm going to agree to this, but she made her save. And so I thought I enjoyed the way that it sounds weird when I compliment myself, but I enjoyed the way that I kind of explained this around. She made her save, and because of the spell, the Zone of Truth, the caster knows who saves and who doesn't. And so Bryn knew that Amalia Castellanter saved. And her explanation was, when you're as powerful a spellcaster as I am, it is a reflex. It is, it is something that your brain just kind of does. You can't really train it not to. You're just trained to fight off magic like that. And so I thought I kind of gave an explanation that didn't tip it too much, that obviously she didn't want the spell to work, of like, this is muscle memory. This is a mental memory for me. This is not something I can just stop. Like if a spell is cast against me, my brain is going to do everything to fight it off. So I felt like that was a pretty good way to try to get around it. Obviously, I think the party kind of were suspecting more and more that something was up. But she saves, and so she answers the questions as best as she can. The party then investigates the Castellanters, their eldest son's guest house, Osvaldo Castellanter, the one that Harvey was looking for information on for Esvel Rushnar. They find his diary with a very good investigation check. They find his diary, and it essentially says that he was planning on getting married to Esvel, and that he saw something that he doesn't think he was supposed to see. And that's kind of the last inkling that they get of him writing anything. And so they're very much kind of like, all right, something's going down. Harvey also kind of looks into the stuff that he had stolen from the Castellanter Manor, which there is a history of Cameron just picking things up in the game and not looking at them and forgetting about them. Me telling him that he has things and him going, okay, yeah, I'll write that down. And then he writes it down, but then he never later on actually like inspects it or looks at it. So his inventory will just be full of things. It's like, Harvey, did you look at that book that you got? Did you look at this? And he's like, oh, no. Yeah, I guess I'll do that, which is maybe me shaming Cameron a little bit, but I just always find it funny that he's so kleptomaniac about anything as a rogue, but then he always forgets to inspect or investigate them. He's like, all right, I've got 5 books from this library. Oh, should I look at them? No, it's probably fine, right? There's probably nothing important here. But they do find a grimoire, a red grimoire that Harvey had picked up from the Castellanter Villa that essentially had a ritual version of the commune spell. This was the commune spell that the Castellanters had used to make the deal with the 9 hells that they originally made. So the party is kind of in a little bit of a crosshairs right now. They're not exactly sure who to trust or what to do. And so they do actually decide to just, you know what, we're going to find the next eye. We don't fully buy the Castellanter's story, but at the same time, we can't let these twins be in harm's way, the children. We have to, who's going to think about the kids? While you ponder that question, I'm going to take another drink. There we go. So they decide we're going to go into the Xanathar Guild's hideout. And this is where I introduced the heist mechanics, which was a really dumb way of just saying, skill challenges, because that's 100% what it was. The idea was, all right, you guys are going to use the resources that you have within the city to try to map out your heist. You're gonna, see if you can there are lots of different ways of like using skills that you're proficient in to find out any intel that you can that will help make this easier. And so they were able to, based on some really good rolls, find out. I think they found a blueprint to kind of the underground hideout that they had. So I just gave them the map of so they could kind of plan their stuff. They also remembered that the first Xanathar hideout that they had found had the mind flayer that they had met had teleported away. And so they find that there is a teleportation device in the sewers near them that they can use to then get to the Xanathar Guild's hideout. So I think it really went well. I love skill challenges. I think they're a really fun way to break up the monotony of just like making your character's actions feel important and making what your character specializes in important. Because if you're using skills that you're proficient in, it's like, all right, I'm a soldier who went to military school who knows a lot of world history or whatever. But if you're never making history checks, then it's like, well, why do I have that skill? Like, what does it matter? So being able to use skill challenges and give them opportunities to use skills in their backstory makes sense. Makes the characters feel, I think, more fleshed out. It makes them actually, more than just a bunch of numbers. So they go to the Xanathar Guild hideout. And they do a super cool. I'm trying to remember. There's a time thing where I'm not exactly sure, because there are two things that could have happened. Either they go to the Xanathar Guild hideout and get the second eye, or they meet up with Laurel Silverhand, who is the current Open Hand of Waterdeep. Open Lord, sorry, the Open Lord of Waterdeep. Open Hand is a monk technique or whatever for D&D. I believe no, because I believe they find the grimoire, and then sorry if I'm confusing myself, but they find the grimoire, and so they're not trusting the Castellanter. So they decide to go and meet up with Zordos, with Trollskull, because he was the last person they kind of talked to about all this, and they don't 100% trust him, but they trust him a little bit more than the Castellanters. And Trollskull's like, hey, look, I was going to meet up with Laurel Silverhand tonight. You guys can go in my stead, and I'll show you that I am completely on the level. And they meet with Silverhand, who this is the first time they're meeting like Open Lord of Waterdeep in like a back alley somewhere. It's very funny when you think about it in context. And Silverhand is another NPC that I love, because she's just super cool and dope, and like a super high level wizard who's just really cool. So they meet up with her, and they essentially use the grimoire and find out about the Castellanter's deal. They use the grimoire and cast the commune spell. First, they go back to the tavern, because it's a little weird to do that in the in the alleyway. And they find out that yes, the Castellanters were the ones, Amalia and I don't remember the husband's name now. Osvaldo's older brother, Terenzio, Alenzio, Amalia, who cares? Amalia Castellanter and her husband made a deal with Asmodeus, Lord of the Night House, and that they're the ones who put their children in this position. They put their kids in this position for power and wealth and fame. Excuse me. And that they were supposed to turn in the 500,000 gold pieces and 100 souls by Victoro. Thank you, Lauren. Victoro Castellanter. That they were supposed to turn in. They were supposed to deliver the Night House 100 souls and also 500,000 gold pieces. And this is where one of probably the most long-lasting decision of the campaign that we're still feeling the effects of literally from last session is that the Night House are like, look, we can't just take away this contract. That's not how it works. Now, if you make a new contract with us, and in the legal proceedings of this contract, we have a clause in there that negates and takes over parts of the Castellanter contract, then we can talk. And so Quick obviously says, okay, I'll do it. However, part of the Nine House deals is, as much as they love souls, they love corrupting. And there's no sense in making a deal with a tiefling who's already got devil blood in them. They're already pretty golden. But there was in that room an Aarakocra. Now, as much as Harvey's a rogue, he's still got a heart of gold. He still cares. But Harvey, being a being from the elemental plane of air, a creature not a mostly from their society, like a lawful good creature. Now, if you get something like that and you can corrupt them, that's perfect. And so essentially Harvey makes this deal that he will deliver 100 souls to the Nine Hells. And the Nine Hells will take all of the material possessions of the Castellanters and the Castellanter, Amalia, and Victoro's souls. And that'll give them even. So instead of taking 500,000 gold pieces and 100 souls, they're still getting their 100 souls. They're getting half of, because it turns out the Castellanters actually owed like 1 million gold pieces. So the Nine Hells were still going to get 500,000 gold from the Castellanters' material possessions and their villa and all of the stuff that they owned. And they get Lord and Lady Castellanter's souls. And they corrupt a lawful good creature from, I don't think Harvey personally is lawful good, but just his people are lawful good creatures. Corrupting someone like that's gonna do wonders. And also every person that Harvey kills goes straight to the front lines of the Blood War, which is a long forever war between devils and demons in the D&D mythology. So they do that. Harvey gets this brand on his arm that essentially, it's a brand of the number of his contract, essentially saying that this is the amount of souls that you need to take care of. And that leads us to them going to the Xanathar Guild hideout. There we go. And they, do all the heist mechanics, and they get to the Xanathar Guild hideout, and Harvey asks a question. First they get there, because there were a collection of Kuo-toa kind of in a circle, kind of chanting and doing Kuo-toa shit. And he asks, you said there's a chandelier above them, right? I said, yeah. He's like, can I shoot it? And I was like, yep, I said it. That's what I said. Go ahead, make an attack roll. And he does, and it crashes down. And with the amount of feet it was in the air and the falling damage, it wipes out the majority of the Kuo-toa. So Harvey immediately just gets numbers knocked down his list already. That entails some combat, and the players go and kind of looking around the rooms. They find these jail cells of people that are awaiting torture by the Mind Flayer, and they find Hyustis, who is a captain in the guard, in the Waterdeep City Guard, City Watch. And so they rescue this individual, and then they continue their way through, and they meet up with Nihilor, who's the Mind Flayer that they met all the way back when they first started this adventure. And this Mind Flayer did not seem to care too much that they were there. This Mind Flayer was like, look, if you're going to fuck with Xanathar, go ahead. And Xanathar has this prize goldfish named Silgor. And so Nihilor gives them some goldfish poison. Because why not? Why not? They make their way to the Xanathar's, his chambers, and they're able to, with some good perception checks, investigation checks, find where the eye is. At that time, they hear explosions going on all around them in the hideout. And so they rush out. They assume that Xanathar, sensed that they, went into his chambers or whatever and is coming after them. So they begin running, and they see a bunch of drow. And the drow make eye contact with them and then give them a nod and escape. And so our party escapes a little confused at the drow situation and continues on. And that's when they find out that later that night, when the drow come back to visit, that, of course, Zord is not the eccentric Zord, leader of the Sea Maidens Fair. Zord is actually Trollskull, leader of the Brigand Art, pirate king of Luskan. And they feel pretty good about themselves. They feel like, all right, we're doing some good stuff. Now all we need to do is get the eyes from the Castellanters and find out a way for them not to know that we don't trust them anymore and that we know what's going on. So they head back to the Castellanter estate. Castellanters they use the eyes and they find out that the cache of gold is buried underneath the Never Ember Mausoleum, surprisingly enough, which is ironic that nobody checked at the Never Ember Mausoleum. But, dead people, right? So the Castellanter is like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. We got to go right away. Thank you so much. By the way, our tiefling butler is going to try to murder you now. He's actually a doppelganger. Bye. Yeah, because the Castellanters were never planning on allowing the party to live or to continue their ways, which makes sense. They're bad. They're baddies. Our party, though, defeats this doppelganger pretty easily. There are a couple imps that also attack Harvey. Now, I have learned something in my encounter building throughout the time that we've been playing. Harvey's not good with imps. He's not good with imps or tiny, small creatures. For some reason, Harvey, when it comes to tiny creatures, he just falters every single time. The Sturges from the first session that knocked him unconscious. The imps were just getting at him the entire time during this encounter. Maybe I just need to start throwing small creatures at Cameron all the time and just see what happens. Maybe that's how I need to win these encounters. Either way, the party escapes the Castellanter Villa. They make it towards the Trollskull Alley, the Trollskull Tavern, and they're like, all right, we got to get our crew together. We got to get everyone we know, and we got to get to the Never Ember Mausoleum. And they do that in a really cool kind of, Yu Yu Hakusho One Piece, like, all right, we're all walking down the street, they are able to get Rainier Never Ember comes because Rainier feels like a lot of this is his fault, and it's at his family's mausoleum, so he feels like he should be there. And they contact Laurel Silverhand and Trollskull, and they're like, hey, Never Ember Mausoleum, meet us there now. And they go, and there's a whole bunch of City Watch that are already there. And it turns out these City Watch are just Castellanter guards in disguise. A big fight breaks out. Laurel Silverhand comes in with a bunch of her guards. A giant fight. The players do another skill check just to try and get through the insane combat and fighting that's been going on. They get down underneath the mausoleum. They go through kind of the traps and the puzzles of this crypt. And they almost get killed by Black Pudding. Because I did the classic, hey, there's a crack in the wall. Anyone want to look at it? And everyone's like, no. And then Bryn, our elven cleric, was like, I want to look at it. And then that's when the Black Pudding attacked. Luckily, our characters were able to kind of get away from that. But they head into the mausoleum. They head and they find this giant gold dragon who is guarding the treasure. And they see Rainier's father is there talking with the dragon. After some quick deducing, turns out that it wasn't actually Rainier's father. It was Victorio Castellanter using a disguised self-spell, trying to convince the dragon that he was Daggle Never Ember here to collect his gold. And that was the Castellanter's plan all along, is that if they got down there, they're going to pretend to be Daggle, get it loaded in, and have it back there by Founders Day. A small fight, kind of happens, but Victoria was able to dimension door and get the heck out of there. But Silverhand's not too worried about it because she knows that on Founders Day, those devils aren't coming for the twin Castellanter children's souls. They're coming for Lord and Lady Castellanter. So our heroes win. They win the big day. They find the gold. They assist the city in returning the gold to the city of Waterdeep, and they get the prize, which is, in hindsight, I think a really good thing that happened for the campaign. Honestly, even though it sounds like I'm like a little off about it, because they get, and I believe, let me just double check the numbers real quick, but I believe it was 50,000 gold pieces. I'm just gonna double check, and on D&D Beyond, and sponsor me. Don't sponsor us. We never make content, please. it would just kind of be a waste of your time. But if you just want to give me a bunch of shit, cool, I'll do that. You know, I'll do a live stream every quarantine. Okay. Yeah. What's up? 50,000 gold pieces they get for themselves, which most people would be like, wow, like at, what was it, fifth level, you have 50,000 gold pieces? Like, that's insane. How do you manage that? And for a while I was like, man, my party has too much money. What are they going to do? I started to find things that they would be willing to buy, but I've realized also that I think it really works for the type of game that we're playing. Because we're not really playing a game that's like go out, kill shit, get money, burn towns, get money. Like, that's not really the type of game we're playing. We're the character, like the players, I think, not to speak for them, but from what I noticed is that they care about encounters and stories that are deeply tied into the relationships they've made, whether that's backstory or whether that's relationships they've made with NPCs. I do not think the promise of rewards, or like material rewards, is really enough for the characters to just go and do something. Just from the type of game that we're playing, I think the game that we're playing is less Diablo, and more Final Fantasy. I guess that's a good. Yeah. We just want to get emo during RP. That's all we want to do. So I think that giving the players a bunch of money early on made it so that I wasn't have to, okay, let me put this magic sword in a fucking cave somewhere so they can go fight some things. It's more so like, okay, how do I make the characters feel threatened? And how do I make them feel like they have to go and do this thing, So it was, I think it just made better for the type of game that we were playing, which is a more RP heavy game. So yeah, at first I was like, man, I'm dumb. I gave them 50,000 gold pieces. Me. And now I'm just like, you know what? Who cares? Yeah, go to the store and buy 5 potions or whatever, because that's, at the end of the day, like, the threat of going off into a dungeon and just finding a giant dragon to kill isn't really what's going. The threat is, okay, that person you really like, you kept the secret from them and now they don't like you and now they hate you. Like, that is really powerful, I think, for the game that we're playing. So, and then also, though, attacking their beloved NPCs when nobody's around is also really helps as well to ramp up the threat level. So anyway, after that, we get to a wonderful day of Founders Day, which is all just RP and games and events, and just like giving the players a break, because it's just been so much that had been happening. So they just get a break. Founders Day is a wonderful day where they can just go and kind of just do whatever. They play a couple carnival games. They run into some NPCs that they met and helped out, and then they get awarded Heroes of the City. They get medals, and they officially announce themselves to the world as the Trollskull Club. Just a wonderful name, an emblem, and they just have a good time. And then shit hits the fan. And not really. I mean, first, after that, we finished Dragon Heist. Essentially, we are done with everything that is in a book. And I think that we are obviously doing our very own version of Dragon Heist. Not fun. I think I would have in the beginning, maybe if I'd been doing it now, not followed the book as closely. Maybe because they leveled up, they leveled up very quickly and a lot. And so I'm still even trying to get used to that. When should the players level up? Because we're doing milestone and not necessarily XP. So finding out when the characters should level up and when feels right for them to level up is interesting, because when you're following like an adventure like that, you just get to this chapter in the book, they level up. You get to the end of it, they level up. And so some chapters I think took a lot shorter than others. And so it'd be like, all right, you're level 2, you're level 3, bam, bada boom, already. So yeah, it's a learning curve, because it was the first real adventure that I had ran. So just getting used to that and getting all that together. But after that, after Founders Day, it was all on me. And so like all the stuff with the monster children, that like side quests and stuff like that was still stuff that I had planned out and done by myself. But this is the first real stuff where it's like, okay, where are we going next? And when you have a bunch of adventurers who are, recently leveled up, they're feeling pretty good, they got a couple magic items under their belt, you go to the Underdark. And that's where shit starts to get fun. So after Founders Day, we do like a month time skip. Harvey, God, what did Harvey do? Wow. I remember what Quick did. Oh yeah, Harvey went to go do some missions. I'm going to start with Harvey. Harvey went to go do some missions with the monster children. He kind of helped out Mysteris a little bit. He was also growing feelings for Jeff, or Red, as they are nicknamed, the goblin girl. And so he goes on a mission with Mysteris to go to a local town to kill off the rest of that cleric order. Those kind of those clerics that attacked the Myconids. They found out where they were and they went and just slaughtered them. Just murdered the rest of them inside their church. Which is interesting. Harvey at this point in time is very much like are you bad? Sure, I'll kill you because I need to get as many of these numbers down on this contract as possible. Bryn, during that time period, went to go speak with their Uncle Petrin, who lives in Waterdeep, who's just like a leather worker, and they go on a sailing trip. They go sail, they visit Marquette and the Bay of Gifts, and then they also take a trip through a Fey portal, and head into the Feywild, where time works a little bit differently. So they're there for a little bit. When they come back, time hasn't really changed at all. And then they head back home, and Bryn also decides to. This is when Bryn decides to multiclass into monk and meets up with Hlan, a monk who lives on Mount Waterdeep, who's a very like secluded old man monk, and teaches Bryn monk stuff. And that's how Bryn multiclasses into monk, which is fun. And Quick one-on-one. Very much kind of how the jump start into the next story. So Quick decides to go off with Vincent Trench to see if she can find any clues, any more information that she maybe missed about her missing family. As I talked about last video, she went adventuring, she came back, her home and everything was burned down, and she saw Dorgar there, and they kind of knocked her out, left her for dead, and she didn't really see any sign of her family. Vincent Trench had been getting word about more and more people in surrounding towns and stuff being kidnapped by Dorgar, especially people whose families had lineages with sorcerers, like sorcerer bloodlines, like draconic bloodlines, things like that were being kidnapped and taken. So they do some investigation. They go back to her home plot. They don't really see much there. They do go into a local wood, and they do find a cavern, a cave system, after fighting a sea hag, which is fun. Just because hags are fun. Hags are fun. I love hags. I need a t-shirt that says I love hags. That's some good merch. I love hags. Anyway, they go down into this tunnel system, and they start walking for a while, and they run into this individual, this crazed, robed individual who is fighting these spider creatures, these ettercaps. And after kind of assisting this individual is running away, doesn't want anything to do with these people. Quick kind of chases after this person and tries to cure wounds on them. And the person kind of is running away, and Quick's chasing after them, and then they cast a wall of fire between themselves. And as the hood comes in, Quick sees the face, though if not a little more deranged than she's used to seeing, of her wife, who she thought was dead, who is also casting a wall of fire that she did not know how to cast before. Quick tries to chase after her, being fire resistant. I can't believe I pulled it off either, honestly. It's probably one of the few things I'm very proud of. I was able to pull that off. Quick being like fire resistant or fire immune, she just jumped through the wall of fire and chased after her. But Quick's wife had some more resources than Quick had at the time, especially with the multi-classing. And so Quick's wife, Aura, is her name, was able to kind of dimension door and just get away. And so Quick makes her way back to Waterdeep at the end of the downtime and just goes to everybody and says, hey, oh my God, I saw my wife. She's down in these caves. We have to go. And that jumpstarts our Underdark arc. That's where things start to get fun. The party, of course, immediately is like, yeah, shit. Okay, we're going to go. I did miss something very important. This is also trying to condense like a year's worth of playing in. So all of that happened, but just before that, Vasir, the changeling, who works with Maceris of the Monster Children, asks the party to assist him with this monster that he's hunting. The monster, turns out, was Vincent Trench, because Vincent Trench is actually a Rakshasa in disguise, which was insane. The party is very confused, and they don't know what to do, and they do assist Vincent Trench in killing Vasir and Vasir's kind of hit squad that he had with him. Harvey is very hurt, though, obviously, at kind of the lies and the deception that Vincent Trench pulled off of being, of Harvey not really understanding, like, he knows that a Rakshasa is like an evil creature, and so he doesn't know if he can trust Vincent Trench. Quick, obviously, does, kind of trust him more than Harvey, and kind of understands that, Trench wasn't malicious in his reasoning for not telling anybody. Was very much trying to just build a new life for himself there. So that's the last time that they actually see Vincent Trench. Yeah, because then they go into the Underdark. And they're able to, Quick is able to, with a persuasion roll and also some very sound reasoning, convince Vernier and Everember to also go to the Underdark with them. Because Vernier is very close to the Trollskull Club at this point. They kind of helped clear his name and better his reputation in the eyes of the city. And so Quick says, "Hey, I think my family or my wife is down in the Underdark. I need your help." He decides to go with them. So he leaves the tavern in the care of Volothamp and Floon Bragmar, which goes wonderfully. It goes great. No, it doesn't. It goes horribly. They run their business into the ground, of course. But the party then goes off to the Underdark. It's a lot. It was a lot of traveling, a lot of just like, all right, there are caves and it's dark and there's this stuff and this stuff and this stuff. And that was kind of fun just because of trying to prep exactly what I wanted to prep. Because at this point now I was trying to fully get together the whole picture of what I wanted the Underdark to look like, and I wanted the city that they were going to be heading to look like. So I needed time. So I kind of elongated, I think, some of the travel sequences so that I could give myself time to figure this shit out. But eventually they do come across these Duergar, these miners and slavers who have this group of people. They kill these individuals, and they find that there is a drow girl and a white dragonborn who are there. And this drow is... sorry, it's just the type of stories that I'm interested in and the type of stories I like telling. It's like, yes, she's a princess of a Underdark. She's essentially the last surviving member of a powerful family within the Underdark that ruled over the city of Emberfell. This city was taken over by Duergar, and her family was killed, and she was taken away to mining camps. She, along with her friend and kind of surrogate protector, Mara, who's a white dragonborn wizard, who just happened to be studying and learning at the city of Emberfell and with the royal family at that time. And she was kind of roped into this whole situation because she was there on the day that the Duergar attacked and took over her city. The players were, given kind of a choice. It's like, all right, are you guys going to assist Lydra Shadlove, who's the drow princess, in getting back to her city? or are you going to try to continue finding out where Quick's wife is? Which is really good that the threads do converge, because they didn't have much of any information to go on. They just knew that Quick's wife was down there in one part of the tunnel at one point, but they don't know where she was after that. So they are able to kind of find a new goal and hope that that leads them to where they need to go. They are able to find what's called Sanctuary. It's this tavern, this kind of ethereal. It's the Room of Requirement, or yeah, Room of Requirement. Yeah, that's what it's called. It's it's a magical tavern that only appears to those who need it. That is a place of sanctuary, of home for those lost in the tunnels. And they meet a orc, kind of bard. He's a jazz lounge singer, and he was very much based off of the TV show Angel, which I was a big fan of. The character Lauren from Angel, who has this ability to kind of read people's paths, and what they're supposed to do and where they're supposed to go, but only when they sing. And so that is what Mustang did. Mustang, the orc. The characters, they all kind of role played and they all went and sung. And he kind of told them where they were going. And Mustang very much to Quick was like, you were going on the right path, follow, taking this girl where she needs to go. That's going to help you find what you need to find. Essentially, so the party gathers themselves up together, and then they head off through more mining camps. There's a very fun encounter, which is the Purple Worm roller coaster, which is one of my favorite encounters that we did, where they jump on some mining carts to kind of get further deep into the mine. They kind of release the lever and start going on like a roller coaster, essentially Big Thunder Mountain. And then bursting from the wall behind them is this purple worm that is coming and chewing and trying to eat them and get after them. And so it was a lot of fun. It turned into more of a skill challenge of like, how are you going to go faster, lose weight, block this purple worm? How are you going to use your skills to make sure that you're able to not get eaten by this giant monster that's behind you? Brain, our elven cleric, cast a clutch Shield of Faith spell because Sundry, the elven paladin, was in the back row of the minecarts. And the purple worm got an attack on him. And the only reason the purple worm did not hit was because the paladin's AC was up by 2, because of the Shield of Faith. That was the only reason he would have hit if not for that Shield of Faith spell. So clutch, because then it would have been a whole different problem if one of their party members had gotten swallowed by the purple worm. So very, very lucky. That was a very smart move. Again, like I said, my players, pretty good at the encounters. They are pretty good. I don't know why I said it like that. I need a little bit to drink. And so the party then magically runs into the this group at the end of the mine shaft. They run into this group of Duergar and kobolds and bugbears and all of these kind of denizens of the Underdark who are Lydra's army that she didn't know that she had. This is the rebellion. These are the Rebel Alliance of the Underdark. They were going around liberating these mining camps. They happened to kind of pass into each other, just as Mustang had said, if you continue on the path that you're on, you will lead where you need to go. And so Lydra and Mara are united with the rebellion, this group. And so essentially like, all right, we need to take back your city. And so they come up with a plan of like, we're going to sneak into the city of Emberfell, and there is a black market at Emberfell. There's like a magic, black market that has legendary artifacts and items, and it's also where a lot of the slaves go through. And so Quick and the gang had the idea of like, we go to this black market. This is most likely, if my family had gone through there at any point, there would be a record of it. So with that idea, they kind of head towards the city of Emberfell and make their way into there. They meet some NPCs and some people within the city. I really love the city of Emberfell because I had this whole map, and I had, different areas of the city. The different districts had all these names and stuff, and I love Emberfell. I just think it's a really cool place. And I just had a really great time doing it. So the party gets there, and they do realize they do find they're not able to visit the black market until the day of the black market. So they have a couple days they have to wait in the city. Mara is able to use some locate creature spells, and they have an idea and a direction where Quick's wife is, just because of the location that they were casting it and where they were. So they go running looking for her. And Bryn sees two individuals in cloaks walking down this this street, and so he begins to follow. They begin to follow them. And gosh, the Underdark story and the story of Quick and Aurora is one of the. I'm super proud of it, really, of just everything that we were able to do together, as you know, in our game, and just it was so much fun. And this, so this is funny because this is the first retcon that I really had to do as a DM. So Bryn follows after them. I believe Aurora catches on that he's following, or that they are following them. Sorry, pronouns are important, people. Pronouns are important. Quick catches on that they are following and decides to try to book it. Bryn is a monk, so fucking fast, walking speed, way faster than Aurora's. And so Aurora decides to just waste a spell slot and use, I believe she banishes Bryn. Banishes Bryn. Bryn disappears for just around her, like a minute or something, and tries to run away. Quick and kind of Harvey catch up, and Aurora makes a message to Quick's character saying, "Hey, look, I'll have answers for you at the auction," in a very like cool, mysterious, vibey kind of way. Like I'll talk to you. You know, I'm a woman of mystery. I'll talk to you at the auction. Still kind of, it's still weird because it's like, you know, is she playing this game? What's going on? And then I said she dimension doors away. I was not counting our spell slots. She's a warlock. She only has like 2. So I had cast 2 spells. So she could not teleport away. So at the end of the session, I'm like, oh, and she teleports away. And then I have to be like, actually, she doesn't. And so that completely changed, because it was going to be like, all right, I'm going to like, you know, just kind of like slyly like give her a little bit of a carrot of like, oh, she'll see you at the auction and then take it away. Nope. Because immediately afterwards, a full-on chase sequence happens with all of the characters running through the streets of Emberfell, trying to cut each other off, casting spells, running around, and eventually Aurora is trapped in an alleyway, forced to face this conversation that she did not want to have. And so the family, not the whole family, but the wives are reunited. Quick and Aurora are reunited, and Quick gets the whole details of kind of what was going on with Aurora, and that she was, you know, she was taken away. She was working in mining camps. She escaped. She was by herself, going crazy in the, you know, in the winding caverns of the Underdark. She was alone and scared, and a being, a fiend, an archdevil came to her and said, "Hey, look, you're lost. You are trapped. You are, you know, you need help, and I can give you power to take back what was taken from you. I can give you power to kind of break free from the chains that are imprisoning you, you know, the emotional and, you know, literally physical, but not at that point. She had kind of escaped. Chains that are, you know, do you accept?" And at first, Aurora just assumed that she was going crazy. She didn't fully believe this individual. And then this archdevil said, "Your wife Quick is from my lineage. She's from my bloodline. I am Levisis. Quick is a tiefling of Levisis." And so that is the thing that gets Aurora to agree and become a warlock of Levisis. And also, in mechanical sense, me and Lauren, me telling this to Lauren very nicely changed her race on D&D Beyond from just a normal tiefling to a variant tiefling of Levisis, which did change up some of her spells and stuff. But I think in the long run, she didn't have to, but it was nice. It was good. And so Quick kind of got this whole picture that what Aura's been doing, of that Aura also kind of feels responsible for everything that's been going on, and feels, that she failed too. As as much as Quick feels like she failed her family by leaving and going adventuring, and this happening while she was gone, Aura was the one who was there. She's the one that it happened to, and so she took so much of the burden on herself that she even, there's this scene, it's weird talking about it like it's, but we had a scene together where Aura very much was like, I was selfish. I selfishly wanted to fix everything myself. And that's one of the reasons why she just kept on running away. She also thought that Quick was probably some sort of apparition or not real. Because when, your wife's been gone for like 5 years and suddenly shows up in the Underdark, you're not going to believe that 100%. Aura very much like wanted to do this herself, and especially with these new powers, she felt strong and she felt powerful and felt like she could take back what was taken. I don't know, that wasn't the best way to describe it, but she very much wanted to do it on her own. And then she, kind of being forced to face that decision, realized how selfish of a decision that is to make, and that she should have tried to find Quick sooner. And then we go to the auction, which is funny because Harvey also has a reason to go to the auction. Harvey is asked by an Erinyes, a armored winged metal woman, devil, to go to the auction and to deliver an item, to purchase an item, the Wand of Orcus. Super, super important legendary magic item. The Erinyes is like, look, if you're able to get this item, we will take off a bunch of numbers from your list, and we'll be cool. I can also give you like a Warlock boon if you want, which he then took the Warlock Initiate feat to get some spells, which is my way of, just because I think it's cool to use feats and stuff like that. And I thought it'd be nice to give Harvey a couple of spells, just because everyone else is spellcaster as well. He took weird spells, though. I love Cameron, but he took like Comprehend Languages. And I was like, what? Why? I mean, Comprehend Languages, don't get me wrong, it's a great spell, and I love it. But it was just funny, like, all right, this archdevil woman gives you these powers, and you're just like, I want to learn languages. But either way, so his job is to get the Wand of Orcus. Aurora was also in Emberfell because her job was to make sure that Harvey didn't fuck it up. So ironically, all of this running around and all this chasing, no matter what would have happened, if they had all gone to the auction, they all would have ran into each other, and it would have been the funniest shit if they had all. Aurora's been running away this entire time, and then she just goes to the auction, and it's like, oh, it just would have been great. So that was funny from my end of just like, oh, it doesn't matter what either of these characters want because they're going to be forced to see each other anyway. I am going to take a little bit. But yeah, so they go to the Emberfell auction. They are able to purchase the Wand of Orcus, which is a weird sentence. And they head out, and then they're met with this barbarian, this zealot barbarian by the name of Desdemona, who's like, hey, I need that wand. I need it for my master. She is a follower, a demonic a zealot for Orcus. And so it was a fun combat encounter with, even though it was only one individual, this was a very high level barbarian who was a meat sack of hit points, and also had a Mage Slayer feat. So she was getting up close to our cleric, and every time they would try to cast spells, would just make a reaction attack after them. So it was a really interesting combat encounter, because also the zealot barbarian had this ability where when they hit 0 hit points, they have a Constitution saving throw. The DC increases by 5 every time it happens, but I literally beat it like 2. So she went down like 2 or 3 separate times, but kept on coming back up, which is also fun because Orcus is the demon prince of undeath. So it also kind of lore-wise kind of also fit in, but they were able to eventually get her down. But it was like a very cool like anime moment. Like, if you ever seen My Hero Academia, there's like this moment where Stain is like unconscious, but still just by force of will and willpower standing still. And this is what Desdemona was doing. She was completely like dead, like knocked out, no light in her eyes, but she was still, just by sheer force of barbarian rage and anger and power, still standing strong. That was a fun combat encounter. Even if she wasn't able to do as much as I wanted her to do, she still was able to leave a lasting impression on the PCs. And after that, we then get to the really big thing, which is the rebellion. The players in Aurora decide, hey, we can assist with this rebellion, help Lydra, because they've kind of become attached to those NPCs, but also because there was a thought. There was an inkling, maybe an idea, because they snuck into the auction house after the auction, and they found a ledger, and it says that there were 2 children matching the description of Quick and Aura's, twin half-elven children, one with kind of red hair, the other, I think she's blonde hair. Quick will correct me. Lauren will correct me in the chat. And the two children matching the descriptions of Quick and Aura's were sold to an archmage named Valzur for the purposes of research. And from the information they were able to gather, Valzur lives in like a floating, kind of like a pyramid-like structure that is floating above the castle of Emberfell. And this pyramid structure kind of seemed to be working in tandem with the Duergar. So our party decided, all right, we're going to attack on the same day of the rebellion. We're going to kind of use the rebellion as a way for us to get to the Archmage's tower, Archmage's pyramid, citadel, and attack. And hopefully see if we can find out what happened to those kids. So they wait, they go, they attack that day. It's a huge battle. Lydra Shadowlove does some like, this is my city, I'm coming to take it back speech, and the people of the city fight back against the Duergar that have been overruling them. Really cool moment. I did a really dumb thing, and I gave Harvey a fireball, like a bead of fireball, and he threw it on one of the armies and murdered like 30 people. So he was able to knock down a lot of shit on his list because I wasn't thinking about giving him a bead of fireball and letting him do that. But this, and then, so they go and they're fighting and they're skill challenging and they're getting through a city that's in the middle of a giant war, and people are fighting back, and it's Les Miserables. Yeah, it's Les Miserables mixed with like some other shit, and they make it towards the spires, the crystal spires, which is where Lord Gwar Doomfist, the current ruler of the city, this Duergar machine, half Duergar, half machine type individual. Okay, thought my dog was dying. He's okay, so that's good. This half Duergar, half machine is ruling, and we have a combat encounter. And this was one that I took a lot from Matt Colville, who's a YouTuber who does really great D&D content and also makes a lot of D&D content himself. I did a video on action-oriented monsters, about, a different way to craft a monster that was more about the amount of things that they can do and giving them more things to do. And so I used that to kind of craft Gwar Doomfist. And I gave him a legendary action that allows him to call other Duergar into the room, and also legendary actions that allowed for them to make attacks. So essentially, I was trying to combat the fact that my players, had a lot of NPCs with them, because it was Quick, Harvey, Sundry, Bryn, Aura, Lydra, Mara, Hyorak, who I didn't even talk about. Hyorak was one of the he was like a cleric, a Duergar cleric, who was a kind of an advisor to Lydra's parents, who was leading this revolution. So he was helping the party. And so and Rainier, so there was like 9 or 10 party members all in this encounter. So I had to make a way for the fight to feel balanced and dangerous. So Duergar would just keep on flooding in. And Gwar Doomfist had some dope stuff. He had this flame jet that he could shoot in like a 100-foot line that's 5 foot wide. That was like a dex save. He had this punch that would like fly people back. He had a lot of really cool options that was really fun. And this is the first time that an NPC, that a character died, flat out died, did not death saving. Like this combat was going, and it was going really fast and hard. That was so dumb. It was just so much was happening. Dorgar kept on flooding in, and it's down. And then Dorgar or Doomfist uses a legendary reaction to use a flame jet and just crisps his fucking body, just dead. Takes away his like death saving throws, because there are also Dorgar who had stabbed him, who had made an opportunity attack, or sorry, their legendary action attack to attack Rainier Neverember. So he's just dead. The first time I'd killed a character, which is super fun. Super fun sounds really mean. Maybe not super fun, but just, you know, because I talked earlier, is that like combat encounters are difficult for me. They're not difficult. It's just been something that through my process as a dungeon master, I've been improving and learning how to make combat encounters important, how to make them matter, and how to make them interesting and fun. And so the ways of just Lord Gore Doomfist and how I structured that encounter and how I structured that you know, your monster, if is maybe going once, twice, you know, if you have legendary action. So I had to give him a way to make it so there were multiple things happening. Almost on every round, something was happening. You know, maybe he'd shoot off a flame jet, or sorry, every round, multiple things would be happening. So he would potentially get the opportunity to go like three separate times. Maybe it's a flame jet. Maybe he just sends his Dorgar to attack, but he's just doing something each time to kind of offset the amount of damage and everything that the party is doing. So I killed Rainier Neverember, my self-proclaimed self-insert NPC, killed him dead. But the party was able to knock out Gore Doomfist after that, and for the first time, they had to use Revivify, which is good. They had already purchased diamonds before this. They had gotten some from Maceris, the kind of leader of the monster children. So they had diamonds on them, which is good, because if they had gone into the Underdark with no diamonds for Revivify, I'm a pretty lax guy, but I don't know if I would have been that lax in that situation. I think I might have just been like, sorry, Rainier's gone. But they had diamonds on them. They were able to get to Rainier quick enough. They were able to cast Revivify and bring him back up to life, which is just another thing for my players to feel bad about, because especially Lauren, because she, as quick, kind of convinced Rainier to come to the Underdark. So, of course, she took him dying pretty hard. I'm just like, oh, great. I convinced him to come here. I brought him here. And now his body is burnt on the ground over there. But no, he's fine now. He's good. No. So after that, the party begins to try to find this teleportation circle to get to the citadel that is floating above this castle. At that time, oh, Lauren just called me a dick. But I am a dick. That's a dick move. The players are looking around. They're trying to rest for a little bit. And then the citadel just launches an army of like zombies just down onto the castle. And so the castle's kind of built out of this crystal. And so the roof is shattering because of the amount of bodies that like these zombies that are landing on top of the castle. And so it just crashes in, and these zombies all start flooding into the room. And then we did something that, for me, I think for flavor, which is super fun and cool, even if it's not exactly how the spell works, but Bryn casts Turn Undead. And I make it seem like Selûne just does like Selûne, his god, their god. Pronouns are important. Does like a cylinder of radiant energy that flies up and just eradicates all of the zombies coming down. So it's like a stationary cylinder. This is destroying. That was great sound effects, by the way. That just destroyed all of these zombies. That was just staying there. Just because this was an important moment, and I wanted to feel like Bryn's god was invested in what was happening, and so I thought we did that pretty well. And I also loved. I did not care or know anything about Selûne, but throughout this game, I've just been really enjoying playing that god. It's been super fun. and the party gets attacked by these two assassins that they immediately knock down Lydra and then head back up. So the party follows after these assassins, heading to the teleportation circle to the Citadel. They make their way through all these alchemical rooms and libraries and things until they get to the main kind of chamber. There's Archmage Valzur, and there's these two robed assassins. And there is a throbbing, like, what do you call it? Like a cocoon almost, but it's like of like gelatin and goo, and the floor is also made of like this viscous liquid. And a combat encounter starts, and everyone's Quick is just in a super cool, like, badass moment. She's just walking straight forward, trying to just focus everyone's attention on her, just taking spells and just walking straight forward and yelling about why she, very much like an Inigo Montoya, like, you killed my father, prepared to die, of like, I'm looking for my family. I'm here. Like, it's a very, very cool moment. She's just walking straight forward, taking spells and dagger attacks and hits. Rainier gets one-on-one with this one assassin. The other one starts kind of casting spells at people. And eventually we find out that the two assassins are Quick and Aurora's long-lost twins. The twins had been sold to Archmage Valzur because the Duergar that had kidnapped their children had believed that there's a possibility that they had heard that in this valley there was a sorcerer, a woman who had a draconic bloodline. They didn't know shit that it was Quick. They didn't know that it was this tiefling woman. They didn't know that these children were actually Aurora's blood children and not Quick's. They just heard that there was a woman who could cast magic, who had draconic sorcery, and who lived out here. And so they went there, they burned the house down, they kidnapped the family. The twins were then sold off to the Archmage, who found out that they had no draconic bloodline in them, but was also at a point in time where he was very weak and still at the beginning of his research and needed assistance, and decided that he was going to shape and mold these young minds to become his weapons, his instruments. And so he did. Olandia, the daughter, learning assassination arts and also learning the bardic ways of the College of Whispers. Malor, I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Lauren will correct me. Learning the ways of a Horizon Walker Ranger. So learning about the planes and how to detect planar portals, and also the ways of an assassin. And so they, lived in the Citadel. They would study and do research, and then also be sent on missions to kill and murder anyone who questioned anyone's authority, who tried to get in the way, anything like that. They were sent down and had been doing that for 5 years. And so this big battle happens. Quick realizes that those are her children, tries to get, focus everyone's attention on the Archmage. The cocoon that is kind of floating and throbbing in this kind of breaks open after the twins, interestingly enough, told the Archmage that it's like, I think we need to, it's time. We need to let him out so that maybe he can help us. So this being comes down, and it is my proudest thing, probably, a Draco Flayer. So a long time ago, not to get too into backstory stuff that the players don't know, the Archmage was kidnapped and, experimented on, and not experimented on, but kidnapped and tortured by mind flayers. These Illithid were kind of, their ship and all of their stuff was wrecked and destroyed. And so as the Archmage was heading out, he stole a tadpole from like the Elder Brain, like the Bryn pool. He stole like a baby mind flayer, essentially, and then began experimenting on it and began using the blood of the draconic bloodline sorcerers that he would kidnap with this mind flayer, and kind of fusing them together to create a kind of half dragon, half illithid creature. So it's like this illithid with tendrils, but it also has like scales and kind of like a dragon's body, but with scales and like a snout and teeth and claws, but had also the mental capacity and psionic powers of a mind flayer. And so it was a full Frankenstein's monster situation though, because this entire time that the twins were there, the Draco Flare had been mentally kind of connected with them. And so they kind of saw this Draco Flare as like a surrogate brother to them. And he would talk with them while they were living there. And so they had all like kind of banded together and said, when the time is right, we're going to take him out. We're going to take out the Archmage. And so they were like, all right, the time is right. The Draco Flare is ready. And so the Draco Flare kind of came out, killed the Archmage, and then kind of alleviated the mental block that had been on the twins' minds. The kind of emotional, like lifted up the emotional wall of like kind of pain and sadness and let them kind of fully feel again. And so, yeah, that kind of began us to like the end of the Underdark arc. The family, Quick and her family were reunited. Her twins, who, albeit are in a very different place than when she last saw them. They're, have had 5 years of death and kind of mental torture, and they have a lot of pain that they're trying to work through. The Draco Flare bounces. He completely vanishes to somewhere. I'm not quite sure yet. As the heroes rejoice. They have their after party. They have their party. Elijah Shadlove and the rebellion were successful. They took back the city of Emberfell. All the party members have kind of gotten what they wanted. But it was a question of what happens next. And Malur and Olandia were in no position to go back to the world above. They'd been in the Underdark for 5 years. They had just kind of escaped this mind control, and they had just kind of gotten their lives back as 15-year-old kids who'd been trained as assassins. So they needed time to adjust. And so Quick decides to stay in the Underdark to be with her family and to help them readjust and for them all to get to know each other again and to reconnect. Bryn, our elven cleric, made a friendship with Nobuk, who was the head priest of a temple of Selûne within the Underdark. The temple had been very downtrodden and had been kind of destroyed by the Duergar. And so Bryn decides, hey, I'm going to stay here and help Nobuk restore this temple back to its former glory. Especially because Bryn heard that the elves of Everesca, these high elves that kind of run the like high temple of Selûne, were asked for assistance by the Temple of Selûne in the Underdark, and they were denied assistance. And so Bryn feels very, very responsible and very hurt that this other temple did not give this Underdark temple any assistance, and so decides, I'm going to stay here and help Nobuk rebuild the Temple of Selûne in the Underdark. Harvey and Rainier decide that they're going to go back to Waterdeep. And so this was very much they had a little goodbye. And we did a 1-year time skip, which is crazy, but so much fun. It was fun to do a time skip, but we did a 1-year time jump just so that things could be to give, I think, the players time in the specific things that they wanted to do for them to feasibly be accomplished. Quick and her family become closer, and they do begin to kind of mend those bridges and heal those wounds of 5 years of shit and torture and bad things. Bryn is able to rebuild this Temple of Selûne to a thriving temple. Harvey, during the year, works more with the monster children, also spends a lot of his time away from Waterdeep, mostly because there is a group within the city of Waterdeep, a group of Aarakocra soldiers who are on a hunt for beings of elemental earth. Aarakocra are, at war with the creatures of elemental earth, of gargoyles. That is like their holy mission. And so these Aarakocra, known as the Sky Swords, have with the kind of permission of Laurel Silverhand, the Open Lord of Waterdeep, allowed to use Waterdeep as a base of operations as they hunt for gargoyles and other creatures. So Harvey is very much not a fan of these Aarakocra, because his father, Zarvul, who he ran away from, is the leader of this group, and he is in the same city as Harvey. So Harvey took a whole bunch of missions with Maceres that had him just going. He went to Troll for months, and stuff like that. And so he was just not around in Waterdeep very often. And 1 year time skip happens. The players all meet back up in Waterdeep. All of the characters. Quick now here with Aura and her 2 children, getting to see the city of Waterdeep for the first time. Bryn now back in the city of Waterdeep. And things, they just have some nice catching up with everybody. Everyone's happy to see them back in. There is a fun little kind of side quest that happens, as there is a thief, a phantom thief, as you were, kind of a Lupin the Third type individual, the Black Viper, who's been making a lot of moves in local news about stealing from nobles. And so she steals from the Trollskull Club. She steals a book that Harvey hasn't thought about for a very long time, The Diary of Osvaldo Castellanter. She steals that from his person after he gets drunk at the reunion party. So they go and hunt for this Black Viper character. They talk with Esvel Roshnar, who they have suspicions about and they don't 100% like immediately. And they're just trying to figure out who this Black Viper is. They're also trying to reestablish relationships within the city of Waterdeep. Quick being given this task of trying to establish a connection between Waterdeep and the Underdark city of Emberfell, as Quick knows the Open Lord of Waterdeep and knows Elijah Shadlove, the new leader of Emberfell. She's kind of the official liaison to the world above, is her title. So the players go to, they go to a masked ball, and it's very nice and adorable, and they run into the Black Viper, who steals from there. Also, at the ball, they do meet a lot of the lords of Waterdeep, a lot of the kind of people that they had contact with in the beginning of the campaign. A lot of the famous kind of houses and people. And I will be back in just a second. Don't have too much fun without me. There we go. My dog was trying to eat some clothes, which is not very nice. Geez, I'm almost done. It's almost 2 hours, but I'm almost done. Yeah, Black Viper. They meet a whole bunch of the kind of the noble houses within Waterdeep. A lot of the big trading houses and people such as that. They run back into Silverhand again, the Open Lord, who's very excited to see them. The Black Viper strikes at this masquerade ball, kind of stealing from everybody there, and makes a runaway. They try catching after her, but they aren't able to catch her. She's able to use like this smoke bomb to get away. After that, they just resign themselves and confront Esvel Rashnar, who, yes, is actually the Black Viper. It wasn't really that much of a mystery. They were pretty much sure that it was her from get-go, but now they were able to finally like confront her about it, and find out that the reason she was doing it was mostly because she doesn't care for the noble society in Waterdeep, and she thinks that they're all kind of a little pompous and arrogant. They need to be taken down a notch. And also she stole from the Trollskull Club because she wanted to know what happened to Osvaldo, what happened to her fiance, essentially. And she finds out that, yes, she's a bored rich kid, very much bored rich kid. She finds out that Osvaldo was the first of the Castellanter children to get sacrificed to the Nine Hells for their power and for their money. So she takes that kind of hard, obviously, but does build an understanding with the Trollskull Club. I'm not going to say friendship, but they're now on an even playing field and kind of understand each other and aren't going to fuck with each other's shit, essentially. Esvel does get an invitation to the Monster Children from Harvey, but doesn't seem fully accepting of it yet. We'll see how it goes. After that, Bryn is kind of on this journey to try to make connections with the definitely, yeah, not friendship, not friendship, and understanding. They've made it understanding. Bryn is on this journey to kind of connect the Temple of Selûne in the Underdark with the temples of Selûne that are in the world above. And so they go to the Temple of Selûne in Waterdeep. And this is where I had fun just making a whole bunch of elves who are super like very, very like fancy high elves who have no understanding of like the real world, who are in this like floaty like ethereal world of their own making. They're so old they don't really understand time. They're a minute is like years to them. They're just like I don't get it. And they're they speak through their dance and through their movement, and they're just really a lot of out of touch. My out of touch high elves was my idea. Like they're just so out of touch with everyday society and how things work. They're just stuck in their own weird headspace. But they seem pretty open to the idea of making this relationship with the Temple of Selûne in the Underdark. They want to have another conversation with Bryn on the Selûne's Halloween, which is a holiday in Waterdeep that is the next month, I believe. So they want to have another conversation then, just so they can hash out the details and everything and talk to the high priests of the temple. And then is when shit really starts to get real. The players begin slowly figuring out that NPCs they had met at the very beginning of the campaign were turning up dead. Zablob, the shop owner, that they had met in like the second session, who owned that shop that had all the purple oddities and also the Xanathar Guild kind of emblems, was found dead. Was found murdered, stabbed a lot. And also they did some investigation, found out that one of he had this paper mache eye that was kind of almost looked like a security camera. Was also had a dagger stabbed through it. They also found out that Floon Bragmar is also murdered. Harvey finds his body in his home. He's with Rainier, but Rainier and him are drunk, and he doesn't tell Rainier that he found Floon's body. He gets Rainier back home, and he tells the party like, "Hey, I found Floon. He's dead in his house." Wow, that was weird. That one actually kind of saying that one kind of hit me just because of the stuff that kind of happens along with that. So they find out that these people are being targeted. They find that Harvey had received a letter from Jarlaxle, but he hadn't opened it yet. And the letter essentially reads in illusory script that only Harvey can read that he's being targeted by, he believes, Xanathar Guild. And so the players are concerned about that and decide that, okay, we're probably going to head to Luskan. We're going to head to Luskan just to see what's going on with that and if Jarlaxle has any more information. So they decide to book passage with one of Maceres' ships. He says it's going to take a couple days. So the party goes over to Floon's place, tries to check on that. A courier kind of comes to the tavern and attacks Quick's daughter, Aulandia, who is the first to kind of who is just the only person to kind of see the courier. And she's like, "Oh, hey, can I help you?" And the courier's like, "Oh, yeah, I have these packages for you." And also, stab. But Aulandia is an assassin, is a bard of the College of Whispers. She deals and kills this assassin. But when the party gets back, she's like, "Hey, this Xanathar person sends his regards. He sent this man to try and kill me." And at that point, while that was going on, the party had also gotten word from Bobkin, one of the monster children, that he needed help in the docks, that something bad had happened. And so they head to the docks and they find this ship that had been, just full of cargo, was full of zombies, and Bobkin was laying, bleeding out. And so they fight off these zombies, they kill them. Quick uses Fireball for the first time and blows up the majority of the ship, the wooden ship, with her Fireball spell, but it's fine. They kill these zombies, and that's when they head back to the tavern. And they also find out that Quick's daughter was attacked, and that individual, the assassin, also raises back as a zombie. So they kill him again, and they're just like, all right, there's some weird shit going on. All these people that we had known way before, that we met during the dragon heist are being attacked and being killed in succession. And there's a lot of undead around now that are coming in addition to these attacks. These undead are being killed. So they try to look more into this whole situation. They go back to try and find Hyustis, who was the guard captain that they rescued from the Xanathar Guild way back when they infiltrated. So they go and find them that they're kind of in the dock ward, and they see all of these guards are investigating the zombie ship and all the zombies. And Hyustis is like, what the fuck is happening? And so they talk with Hyustis, and Hyustis tells them like, hey, the Xanathar Guild hideout is destroyed. It's gone. Like, it is just rubble now from when you guys last left, because there are all those explosions. And Trollskull had planted smoke powder in there and kind of blew up the whole place. So that place is gone. We don't know what's going on. I did forget one major emotional part. Thank you, Lauren, for making me sad again. The party also finally told Rainier. I mean, it was only like a day later, but they told Rainier that Floon was dead. Rainier did not take it very well. Rainier was not very happy. He essentially left and did not want to talk to anybody. Quick tried going after him. Was just like, look, people are dying left and right, and we're being attacked by the Xanathar Guild or somebody. We don't know who, somebody who is connected to them or whatever. I want to make sure you're okay. And Rainier in that very much like, I'm telling you what you want to hear, but I don't want to talk to you anymore. Just like, I'll be safe. I'll be fine. I got to go. And so Rainier kind of heads off on his own. He gets some guards to go to Floon's place. He gets drunk in an alleyway. And he also, Rainier's kind of insinuates and is upset because he's like, hey, in his mind, at least, he's very much like, Floon wasn't important to you, so you didn't do anything in your power to help him. It's kind of the insinuation that he throws at Quick. He asks her, if she has any diamonds left. And she's like, yeah. And his insinuation is that, you didn't even try to resurrect him. Like, he could be okay. He could have been anything, but you didn't care enough about him. You only care about, who you care about. He essentially calls Trollskull Club selfish, which, he's hurt and he has his own feelings about the situations, and that's all I'm going to say. But he's off drinking and collapsing in alleyways right now, so he's doing great. Either way, fast forward back to the Hyustis and Trollskull Club kind of figure out that, okay, obviously either Xanathar Xanathar must be coming after, cleaning up his mess, coming after everyone who's involved with his downfall, because they never found Xanathar's body in the rubble of the hideout. So obviously Xanathar's pissed. He's somehow got himself undead lackeys or powers or something, and he is going after everyone who's involved. He's sent someone after Trollskull. He's killed Floon. He's killed Zoblob. He's gone after the Trollskull Club. Quick makes a connection because she had gone to talk to Silverhand earlier, and talk to the Castellantra twins who are staying with Silverhand, that, just talk about everything that's been going on. And Silverhand said that she was in a time vortex, that she had gotten like this magic item or whatever that had sent her through this portal. And she, it had been years over there, but only like days or whatever or minutes or whatever on our side. And so Quick is like, well, maybe that whatever that item was that got sent to Silverhand was from Xanathar. So there's a lot of questions and whatever about all of this stuff. Wow, I'm nearing the end. I've been talking for 2 hours. All of these questions about where Xanathar is, who he's attacking next, how he's going to attack everybody, and why he's so pissed off. And so they head back and they decide they're going to leave. And a couple hijinks ensue of Bryn trying to climb a building to get into Floon's household, but they fail very spectacularly on their stealth and acrobatics checks, and so they're not able to do that. And Quick and Harvey aren't able to find Rainier because they look for him for a little bit in the dock ward. They do see Harvey's father and a monk Aarakocra by the name of Finetta, who Bryn had kind of interacted with earlier when they got back to Waterdeep, and kind of made a friendship with this monk because they're both able to kind of sense each other's ki, and so they've had a couple discussions by themselves a couple of times. But Bryn doesn't know Harvey's connection to Finetta's group, really. So Harvey and Quick see that Zarval and Finetta, Zarval being, they get that something's going on, but they also are just, Quick's very much like faces things head on. That's kind of her way of doing things. So they have like a short discussion. Finetta's just like, hey, we should get going. Like, we need to go look for other stuff. And they go back on patrol, and Harvey tries to get away, but he is seen by Zarval, and that kind of triggers something in Harvey. So Harvey just starts attacking, and they get into this. Zarval sees the fight as more of like a spar. He's like, okay, the prodigal son returns. Oh, show me what you've learned. Like, very much like that type of like arrogant soldier type of thought process. Harvey begins to be taken over by his infernal mark that he has on him, by the corruption that is in his arm, by the contract that he's made, and it begins to cover his body, and he begins to allow it because it's giving him more power to fight his father. But eventually it gets to a point where he tries to fight back against the mark, and he's not able to, and so the mark fully takes over him. And the party and everyone, they're just trying to figure out what's going on. They're trying to subdue this fight, and they realize that Harvey is acting uncharacteristically and that he's being covered in these infernal markings, and that they have to stop him. And so they decide, all right, maybe if we just stop Harvey, we can figure out what's happening. And so they stop him, and he goes unconscious, but he gets taken over by something else. He turns completely ablaze, and begins in what I call Phoenix form Harvey, and turns into this fiery bird of anger and rage, as he becomes much more powerful, and attacks and is able to kill Zarval, his father, and also knocks Finetta unconscious. During this time period that Harvey's body is overtaken by this fiery form, Harvey, his consciousness is down in the Nine Hells, speaking with the Araness, who's kind of oversees his contract. And she's very much like, hey, look, we're going to try to get you back into your body, but we're going to finish what you started. Harvey's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, well, we're going to kill your dad. You started that fight. We're going to finish it since you can't. And he's like, no, that's not what I want to do. And the Araness, it seems... And I think Cameron, the player, and Harvey can probably infer this, that once Harvey kind of got in that fight with his dad, all the souls that Harvey has been, all the people that Harvey's murdered, any of the bad guys, whatever, their souls have been taken to the Nine Hells for the front lines of the Blood War. To be able to take this holy Aarakocra soldier's soul and take it to the Nine Hells and put it on the front lines of the Blood War, I think is really important to the Araness, at least. And so she very much was pushing for Harvey to fight and murder his father, and also take over his body. And so Harvey tries to escape, but realizes that he can't just open a door and go back to his body. He's in the Nine Hells, literally. And so he kind of collapses into a corner and doesn't know what to do. His dad's dead, killed by his Phoenix form. After Finetta and Zarval fall, Phoenix form Harvey dies out and collapses as well. And the party is able to use one of the diamonds that they have to resurrect Harvey. Well, no, they don't. No, they do. They use, yeah, sorry, I had to think for a second. Yeah, they use the last diamond they have to resurrect Harvey. Finetta is stabilized, but Zarval is dead. And so they cast Gentle Repose on Zarval. Your last diamond, yep. Zarval, they cast Gentle Repose on Zarval because they don't have another diamond for him. So Harvey comes back to life. He sees his dad, who's dead. He didn't have a good relationship at all with his father, but he also didn't want to kill him. But Quick was able to cast Gentle Repose on Zarval, so he still has like 10 days, I think, that his body won't rot or decay or anything like that. So they have 10 days to figure out what they're going to do with Zarval's body. And that's where we ended our last week's session was, you know, Zarval's dead, Finetta's stabilized, Harvey's back alive. But so much is going on. The Xanathar attacks are happening. Harvey killed his dad. It was overtaken by his contract. His Devil's Mark completely overtook him. And they saw for the first time what that means and what that looks like. And they might be going to Luskin. I don't know if they're really going to be going to Luskin anymore. It's really going to be interesting. And that's kind of where we leave off with the Trollskull Club. This has been 2 hours of me talking about the D&D game that I don't even stream. So it's been very exciting. It was also good for me just to get everything in order again, of just like, all right, do I know everything that's happened? Do I remember? And there were a couple of times that I got some things confused, probably left out some details, but this is fun. This wasted a lot of time with this quarantine and everything that's been going on. So I'm glad I did it. You know, it's fun. It was for me, really. Anyway, either way, that is all I've got to say about the Trollskull Club right now. I might go back to doing regular campaign diaries after this, since I do have like a full compilation. Like, all right, if you care enough and want to get caught up on the whole story, watch these 2 videos. But I might go back to doing just weekly catch-ups. And thank you, Lauren. Yes, you were here as well. Weekly catch-up videos. But either way, that's all I've got. Wash your hands. Self-isolate if you can. Try our best. You know, D&D, it's a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm going to keep on killing people's dads. So I'll see you later.